A very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on this IGTV video in which I've promised you that I'm going to elaborate the questions related to the grooming officers. There was a comment on my Instagram account over here on a video, on an IGTV video, and I'm going to read the comment quickly in order to inform you what I'm going to refer to mostly. So April asked us, Dear Julia, I really would like to know about grooming managers. Main concerns. What do they notice easily? And firstly, what do they appreciate the most? And if it's fine, tell us about an occasion when they notice something in you and the consequences. And if possible, tell us about the ridiculous things they notice. I'll be happy to know. Thanks, honey. Well, always a pleasure. I was very happy to answer these questions in form of an IGTV video, as this is really interesting, and we'll go giving the answers to these questions in a structured way. So she is gonna get all the answers, and I know that this is a concern for many because these questions I have been getting it also in my inbox over here on my Instagram account. So she's firstly asking, can you tell us about the grooming managers, the main concerns? What are the main concerns of the grooming managers and what do they notice easily? And firstly, first of all, before we go into discussing the questions, it is very important to tell you who are those grooming managers, or in Qatar Airways, they call them grooming officers. Who can be a grooming officer for Emirates Airlines, for Qatar Airways? Now, usually there is a trend, or I would say a practice or a work culture, we can call it, where the airlines have their own style of whom they recruit to be part of this team. This is not the cabin crew team, this is not the training department, although there is certain training happening there, but this is the grooming department. I would say the core component of the airline, and especially Middle Eastern airlines, they're paying a lot of money to designers to design that beautiful uniform that you see out there on the social media and when you're a passenger, and that excites you, amazes you when you think about the airline. So since the managements have spent a lot of money on designing something unique, which is also a product that belongs to the airline, they're also very picky when they're choosing who is going to ensure that all those standards have been followed. When I'm saying picky, they're actually having something called criteria. So when the internal vacancies, mostly these are internal vacancies that are popping up. Why I'm saying internal? Because we have a lot of cabin crew or a lot of people within the cabin crew community who wants to change and transfer to this department. Sometimes the cabin crew that are married are getting pregnant. They're also getting an opportunity to transfer to the grooming department, but not on the cost of just to be transferred. You have to fulfill standards and criteria. Now, the standard and criteria to be a grooming officer would be mostly to have an experience as a beautician, to have a degree as a beautician, let's say skincare, makeup. I have not explored and researched, but I have read a lot of vacancies. These are mostly the core components, and of course, a flying experience is preferred. Why I'm saying a flying experience? Because then later on, you will very easily incorporate that in your job description and what do you do. So since we talked about who can be a grooming officer, and we have established that not every cabin crew who wants to work on the ground can be a grooming officer. A cabin crew who has the specialization in the field, which is related, of course, to appearance, and the necessary experience, which is something that the airlines are determining, will be able to join this team and become a grooming officer or a grooming manager. What do they notice easily? And firstly, I will share a situation over here, which was part of our training. We did the very same thing when we were trained in the police academy, because over there we also wear uniform during our training sessions. So few of the group was taken outside. Let's say in a group of 20, 4 people were taken outside, and the rest of the people, 16 inside, which are wearing uniform, we all had been given a tasks to wear some things upside down, which are not so easily noticed. For example, we have a belt. The belt has a logo, which we know how the logo stays. Now turn the other way around your belt, and then the logo will be upside down, will not be the proper way that's supposed to stay. Let's say you are wearing a name badge, then turn upside down your name badge or remove it. You are required, or you are allowed, let's say, to wear 3 pins on your hair. Make sure you put, let's say, 4 or 5 and stuff like that, which are little details. And then the other people who were outside were asked to go inside and to check what are the things that these people are not having on themselves and they're not according to the grooming standards. Before that, I also want to elaborate and share that every airline has their own manuals, just like the safety manual, the service manual. There's something called a grooming manual, and that grooming manual, it's accessible to all the cabin crew, irrespective the level they're in, the leadership position, or they're cabin crew in economy or in business class. Everyone has the right to access that in order to stay up to date with all the changes and in order to stay on track with all the standards that are happening. And believe me, that grooming manual is very easy to read. Things are very loud and clear said there, and I don't see any reason why a cabin crew should not read the grooming manual once they have time. It's on their comfort and stuff like that. So this was a segment where we were trained to get to notice details. Another thing which I will also relate this, what are the things that are which they're checking easily? There is not a single thing that you would say they're checking easily, but what you need to know is that every grooming officer will have that few things that they are particular about, and from some explainable or unexplainable reasons, that will be the first thing that we are noticing. But believe me, on a 2 to 3 minutes grooming check, the grooming officers are specialized to that point that since they enter the room and they see the 15 cabin crew, they would instantly know whom they have to pay more attention to, whom they don't. As a cabin crew, we often and also build up ourselves something called a reputation, and grooming plays big part in it. Why I'm saying a reputation? In our in-flight assessments that we have, in our trainings that we do when we go to safety, security, recurrent trainings, etc., etc., we have been monitored on the grooming base constantly, and based on the reports that when our grooming officers are checking in classroom or when we are just walking inside the tower and stuff like that, we are gaining and gathering that reputation because everything comes into our personal file. I spoke about it. Now that we have talked that the grooming officers are actually people who are experienced in aviation, you will very often, once you become a cabin crew, this is also a sincere hope and a desire from me, once you become a cabin crew, you will see that the grooming officers are coming. If there is a new grooming officer joining the team, she will not be instantly, or he will not be instantly working alone and checking alone, but rather will be escorted by someone who's already senior in the job. And then later on, they work by the book, of course, by their grooming manual, and that is how we develop the sense, the responsibility, and that's how we are specialized in the field that we are in. Just like the way we become faster in serving drinks, in serving trays in the cabin, that is how the grooming officers are actually becoming specialized in checking the cabin crew's grooming before the flight, during their trainings, etc., etc. Now, I will go to the second point. What I also want to share is that there is not a single thing that they noticed firstly and easily. This is my experience. Of course, they will notice the hair color. This is something very visible, but these are the details that they're all well and loud and clearly written into the grooming manual, that you simply cannot underestimate them because they're not hundreds, they are few. And when you do and you perform that job every single day, rooms for mistakes will be very little. You will see cabin crew getting away from on a few flights, let's say, with a color on their nails. That's not allowed, but they cannot be doing that forever because we all know we have a lot of grooming officers, and at one point something that we are practicing and it is not allowed will be highlighted, and then I seriously believe that nobody will be going into that stage, but then when it's highlighted, we also have to be aware that it goes into the personal file of the cabin crew, which is something I will come a bit later. Now we say, what do they appreciate the most? Another example which I will share with you over here. One time we had a very famous grooming officer in Qatar Airways, and most of the Qatar Airways cabin crew will remember who she is. I'm not going to mention the name. And that very same grooming officer was very strict because she knew the grooming manual by heart. She had a lot of experience in her job. But she came into the into the room before we go for the flight. We were 16 cabin crew, I believe, 777 aircraft, and I was in business class, and she told me, "Can you stand up?" To me. She told me, "Can you go into the middle of the room?" And she told me, "Can you turn around 360 degrees?" And I felt so odd. I was like, okay, 360 degrees. Why is that? And actually, what she did, she addressed to the other crew members, and she said, this is how a cabin crew should look like. And she started elaborating that I don't have a single baby hair, which is something I was always aiming for. Now, with me, an interesting fact about me is that I wouldn't say I'm responsibly driven, but I'm very task and procedure driven. So when the grooming manual says there should be no baby hair, I'm not sitting at home and thinking how to go on a flight with my baby hair. The first thing that I'm sitting and doing is to ensure I have no baby hair flying around. And even if my hair by nature is with a lot of antennas around, if I don't calm it down the way I'm supposed to do it, then I will also mostly going for a flight hoping that now I can go with my baby hair and just the water and applying no product. So to me, as I have mentioned, I'm very procedure driven, and when something is written, I do it the way it's supposed to be done, and I don't think the other way around. If there are 3 nail colors allowed on my nails, these are the nail colors I'm getting married with until my flying career is there, period. I'm not thinking how to get away with different nail colors just because I want on my days off to have different nail colors. It comes within my personality, it comes with the way I'm trained. And these are the things that the recruiters are looking when they're hiring cabin crew. They're hiring candidates and potential candidates or candidates who have the understanding that standards and procedures have to be followed, and not to think how you should breach the standards and procedures, because airlines, as I have said, have spent a lot of money on designing the uniform, and they want that uniqueness when you're walking at the airport and when you're being observed as the cabin crew. I'll just shortly stick to it and share an example. Let's say if you see American Airlines cabin crew, you will see a lot of individualism in the way they're wearing the uniform, not in the real sense of the word individualism, but when I'm saying individualism, it means they all have different hair colors, which are, some are highlights and some are, I don't know, to different hair colors. They all have their different hairstyles. They're carrying hundreds of bags, and it's at their own convenience, which to some that is okay. To me, it's completely fine. It's the standards of the airlines. They go for it. They're happy about it. On the other hand, you see Middle Eastern Airlines with the cabin crew spotless, just like one piece, walking together. Sometimes people are standing and taking pictures and they're amazed. This is what the airlines wants. And if you want to think why the airlines want that, then that's the time you're supposed to start a research. Contact perhaps the management of the airline and ask them to give you the valid reason why they do that. Publish your research and perhaps you become a PhD. You never know. Let's go shortly to the other part of the questions. Now, what do they appreciate the most? I still have not come to the point. They appreciate the most people who are following the standards and procedures, people who knows the grooming manual, and people who basically behave just the way it's written in the manual. So there's not only one thing, there are a lot of things in it. Now, and if it's fine, tell us about an occasion when they noticed something on you and the consequences. There was a very interesting situation that happened to me that at the moment, I thought it's going to determine my career, but I'm very, as I have said, I'm driven by the rules and regulations or the standards and procedures, and I'm very responsibly driven. Not only to the cabin crew role, I'm responsibly driven to my family, to my friendship, to my cousins, to all the people that I have established a certain relationships with, or a way of communication, or something that makes me feel nice. I wouldn't say I'm benefiting from it, but in a good sense of feeling good. Friendship for me is a good time. It's a progress. It's a way to feel understood, loved, cherished. So definitely from a responsibility point of view, I feel that I own respect, I own commitment, I own understanding in a lot of things. This is how I also was positioned, and I'm still positioned to my job that I currently do. I was home on a vacation in Macedonia for 2 weeks, and I've gained weight. At the beginning, when I became a cabin crew, I was only 24 years old, and I wasn't so aware of the fact that my irregular sleep pattern that I have as a cabin crew will make me easily gain weight. So when I went back home, I went to my eating habits that I had. But you know, when you're home and your mom wants to please you and she cooks for you or your favorite meals 3-5 times a day, and then I've gained weight. What happened is when I came to Doha, my uniform was tight, but was really, really tight. My trousers were very tight and my skirt was tight. So I had no option. I was very new, I have to say this, and I wasn't aware of this fact. We talked about it, but not really during the training sessions. Now, what happened is I went half an hour before my reporting time started, or even maybe 45 minutes. And I went to the grooming office at that time, and inside was the nicest grooming lady there, the nicest grooming officers, and she's no longer with Qatar. She is on my Facebook, if by any chance. She's an older lady. I mean, she's more mature than us, but if she's watching this video, I really send all my regards to her. And most of the cabin crew in Qatar Airways knows who I'm talking about, at least my generation. And she was there doing her job, preparing for the grooming check, and I said, "Hi, good afternoon. You know what? My trousers, I was wearing the trousers and carrying the skirt to me, are very tight." And she told me, I was going to Paris, I will never forget. And she told me, "Oh no, you cannot go with this tight trousers. Even if I really anticipate and let you go, I don't want to lose my job, because you know that grooming is an essential part of the cabin crew role. Therefore, if you wear the skirt, let's see how the skirt, if you're carrying the skirt, let's see how your skirt looks like." So I went, I tried on the skirt, and the skirt was even tighter. And she told me, "Unfortunately, you have to be offloaded from the flight because you cannot go with this tight skirt." What happens was I was offloaded from the flight. I didn't went to Paris. I was still F2 crew member. And then you're asking over here about the consequences. Next day, my manager, at that time we did not have managers, but I got a call that I'm supposed to meet some performance manager, which I went there, we spoke about, and I've explained what happened. And I got a warning letter. At that time, I wouldn't say there was an advice letter or there was something, I got straight away something called a warning letter because I was not cautious. But what is important over here, I was F2 at that time, right? That warning letter have not affected my my promotion, and my promotion for an F1 crew member came after a year and 7 months. And long ago, I think I have spoken about the cabin crew portfolio or the cabin crew profile and the things that you're gathering as a cabin crew file in it. I have had a lot of great assessments in my file, on-time departures, you know, those parameters that I talked about. So this warning letter, when my file was looked and evaluated whether I will go for the next level and become an F1 crew member, because there was no application at that time, it was taken into consideration all my great performance. And that warning letter that I got, because I went with my uniform being very tight, had not affected any of my promotions. And you will be surprised, but also as a cabin crew, I have also gotten another warning letter, second one, when I was an F1 crew member, and that is something that I will retell in another video. I'm not going to retell it here because it's not related to the grooming story. So here is the thing, guys, not necessarily something as a warning letter or a responsibility. When a responsibility is asked for you and you have been gotten something called a consequence, people have problems with understanding that when we get warning letters, we get advice letters, we get verbal warning whatsoever. Those are consequences from actions that we have taken and we have simply made a mistake. And often cabin crew, they show that they do not have an ability to take those consequences, which is really sad, because consequences or feedback or, I don't know, form of punishment, you name it the way you want it, those are the segments that are staying within ourselves, because those are motivation that we need to repair it, move forward and go for it. So I didn't see any problem in it. And in fact, I got it also after a year. After that, a second time, it was totally fine. Didn't affect my mood as a cabin crew. I knew that I made mistake. But what is most important, I learned from it. I learned not to make the same mistake again. And if it's possible, she says, tell us about the ridiculous things that they notice. I will never say ridiculous things. Whatever the grooming officer is going to notice on you, it's in their job and it's in their manual. There are ridiculous ways when they notice it. There has been, for instance, there are ways to check whether the cabin crew wears fake lashes or not. And usually this was a sensitive issue, as a lot of cabin crew would wear fake lashes because they want to have lashes and they don't have it, let's say. Just like I would want to have, I don't know, extra hair on my eyebrows. So I try to make my eyebrows look very thick, which is I don't. I have 5 pieces of hair and I try to make them look like 100. Anyway, so there was a situation where a grooming officer actually supposed to check whether the cabin crew has false lashes or not, but cannot pull the eyelashes to check whether they're fake. And this actually have happened. A grooming officer have actually pulled the eyelashes to check if they're fake or they're not. So it's not a ridiculous ridiculous way to ask, but it was ridiculous manner, or a not so nice manner, I would say. And there are tons of other manners, but as you know, I'm a bad entertainer. I'm not on social media to share stories. I don't know how to share stories like that, but I've shared a story over here and I hope that you guys were able to understand it. The bottom line over here is, which I want to mention it, and this video takes already a long time, which I will tell you, is that if we have not been able to succeed in certain field of the cabin crew role, irrespective which field this was, that doesn't mean that you will not be successful. If I was a cabin crew and I will sit here and tell you how I couldn't sleep, I was only 1 year with the airline and I couldn't stay there, then I went home, that doesn't mean this is gonna happen to you. I just would like to invite you to go on my YouTube channel and to check my video about what you should specialize yourself in. And there are a lot of things that you should start thinking about before enrolling yourself, not only in the cabin crew role, but in any other role, because everything that we do and we perform as individuals actually starts within ourselves. Thank you so much for watching this IGTV video. Last but not the least, subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to check my website, xcrew.com. Bye bye and have a nice day.